Hello, my name is Helen Campbell, and I used to be a staff member of the STIC, and I retired a few years ago. And here I am back to talk to you today, and my subject is going to be a very simple one, walking. And I'm going to start now. I'm just back from a holiday in Italy. I spent 5 days there, touring around the hills outside Rome with 11 others in the group, all from France. We were there to visit gardens and castles, and it was all very interesting. There were interesting stories and histories of these castles and who owned them. Popes and dukes and cardinals and princes, of course, and many stories of murder and mayhem and skullduggery, corruption and power struggles. I thought, well, not much has changed really in Italy or anywhere else for that matter. But yes, the gardens are, of course, being Italian, were the of the geometric variety. Very beautiful to see as well, and usually the gardens were below the castle or the palace of the owner. The idea being, and we are talking here about the 16th century most of the time, the idea being that the owner would be in the constant of the at the top, and that there would be a beautiful view of these lovely gardens below, and everyone would realize how influential and important Fiona was a duke or cardinal. So that meant we would go up and visit the palaces and the castles, and that meant walking a great deal, up many stairs and down again, jolly tiring. Actually, we were averaging something like 8 to 10 kilometers every day, and the average age of the people in the group was mine. As you can see, not terribly young. So a lot of walking. And therefore, I was rather interested to read about a study done recently about exactly that, how people walk, the way in which they walk, and what it all implies. People walk differently. For instance, if they are alone or in groups. They walk differently if they were children, and studies have these different ways of walking have been looked at in several different countries. Some of the results are rather fascinating too. How we move doesn't just depend on the biomechanic or the physiology or our age or our size. In fact, walking is mechanically speaking quite a complicated, which we probably don't realize. Most of us have a pace at which we are comfortable, where we are biologically most efficient and using least energy. But these studies show that people rarely do move at their ideal efficient pace. Sometimes because there are impediments on the way, crowds of people. Me in Rome last week, for example, trying to walk down a busy street with masses and masses of people slowing down. However, on an empty path, people often go more slowly, in some cases also more quickly than I do. And these studies that were done in the United States and in Europe have showed some rather interesting results. So much, though, that the researchers wonder if there were perhaps aspects to do with walking significance as well. And so they carries out a project. The project covered two cities, one in the United States, Seattle, and the other in Uganda, Makondo. In each case, the researchers found a local pathway that was near a major market center, and they identified markers on the way, back street size, set at about 10 meters apart. Then time to people, 1,700 people in all, walking through the marked section. Identify those people then by the checklist which they had. The check is covering what gender, approximate age, whether someone was carrying loads or not, and so on. Interesting result too in Uganda. People walked faster than in Seattle when they were alone, 11% faster than low walkers in the United States. But in Uganda, they were slower when they were in groups. They would stroll at a leisurely pace when they were with others. And the opposite is true. Example, where people were speeding up when they were with others, and if there were children along, even faster. In fact, the average speed of walking with children was 20% faster than when adults were alone. What about some possible conclusions to this? Well, we might assume that in Uganda, people use their time walking in groups to socialize, to bond, to chat to people, whereas in the US, especially where children are present, it's all a bit of a chore, something that should be got over as quickly as possible so people hurry. Another interesting point here, men are very competitive when they are with other men, walking with other men in the United States, but not at all in Uganda. Interesting results, don't you agree? It shows us all that walking is not as simple as we thought. So perhaps the next time you go for a stroll, you might remember these things. Thank you.